that is the news that we've been waiting for. Felix Costa has a seat in Formula E. And in last episode, I was very concerned that a former world champion wasn't going to be on the grid this year because there wasn't many seats left, and they weren't the big seats. There was only Jaguar, who have now decided to put pen to paper and sign Felix da Costa, which I think's great news. I think there's a chance he could go for a second world champion in that car, and I think if Mitch Evans and him can score consistently across the season, then there's a massive chance that they could win the Constructors. And that is the news I want to bring today in today's episode of Formula E Unscripted. So, it's not much of a where do we start this time, because we've only got one more team to basically finalise the results, which is Cooper Kiro, or finalise their seats. Speculation is obviously Dan Ticktum's going to be there. He was very talented last year. Whether they keep Beckman on is another question. But we can't confirm, and I don't think there's much really big rumours that we can actually latch on and believe at the moment, because they're quite a quiet team. So until that happens, we won't know. But we've been talking this week, and I say we, I've been in the community meeting some of the other YouTube channels and some of the people that watch those channels to talk about what we think of Season 12. I was very fortunate to be invited on FE Bar, which is hosted by the Formula E Zone channel. Jack and Jack both host the show, and it was brilliant to just go on and give some opinions and see what they think. So it was very exciting to sort of talk about speculations of Season 12 and the testing. The general consensus is that it's going to be a software battle, which means that it's really down to the technical side on who can get the car most efficient and running well as we roll into Gen 4. And I have a big suspicion this year that we're going to have a fight between 5 constructors for the Constructors' Championship. I think last year was quite close, but I think this year we've got the likes of Nissan, Porsche, Jaguar, Citroen, even DS Penske, and probably even Andretti, who have got pairings this year that I think are going to consistently score. And I'm hoping that a lot of drivers get into that 80 mark, because if you look at the standings from last season in Season 11, I've put down here that we've got a lot of number 1 drivers and a lot of number 2 drivers, where you've got scorings of 80 to 100 for the top scoring driver, and then the rest were either between, I think, 8 and 40. So you had quite a big split between the consistencies with the teams, apart from Porsche, which is why I think Da Costa, even though having a mare of a season, still won that Constructors with Wehrlein to push it over the edge, because they were the only ones I think consistently scored close to each other. And it's why I think Da Costa, if he beds into this Jaguar car, has the potential to go win the drivers and the constructors, because I think there was a few races last year, one round that we don't want to even talk about, which is the Saudi round, where he started in 13th in race 3 and then was absolutely clobbered. It says on the internet he was rear-ended, but if you watch it from the camera angles, Nico Muller flies over the top of him, and I don't know how he didn't destroy his rear wing. So he still scored points in that, but the car was probably not in great condition. And then round 4, as they were going around, I think turn 5, 6, whatever the big banked corner was, he was taken out, and basically suspension was broken. But I'm not here to rewrite history, but I did have a look back at some of the results and realised if he'd have scored, 10 to 15 more points, not only would he have secured 4th in the championship, because he was only 1 point behind Barnard, I think, it would have looked more representative with them being 3rd and 4th, being Wehrlein and then Da Costa. So they still won the championship, so, they were consistent enough. But I think there was a lot of races. There was even Japan and Monaco, which I think was his fault with the last corner, and he blocked up the whole of the straight, basically, which was quite comedic, especially coming in as kind of a new fan at Monaco with Formula E. So, yeah. Could they win it, Jaguar? Definitely. And this is what I believe. I think if Mitch Evans can score consistently, get in that 80 range, Da Costa score similar to what he did last year, that would put them on 180 points. I think that's close enough to be challenging for the constructors. Obviously, Mitch, what did he have? I think he had 2 good results, and then I think he had 8 DNF, and then, or 16 or below, basically. And I think 4 of them were DNFs, I think is what I wrote down here. So, yeah, it's absolutely crazy to think that, Jaguar could win it, but again, it is a could. And until we see season testing and how Costa beds in and how the other driver moves affect the grid as well, is going to be very interesting. I did make 2 pages this time, which is exciting. The other bit is Nico Muller. Obviously, he's now been announced. I think Porsche did it this week on social media, basically saying this is our second driver. There was a lot of talk anyway that he was going to have that replacement beforehand, so it's not too much of a shock. I think people knew it was coming, so when they posted it, I think they knew, because the post they did kind of just showed his face. My problem with Porsche, and this is just from really an outsider with not a lot of experience in Formula E, is they are the pressure cooker. They are the Red Bull of Formula E. That the pressure that they put on the drivers to be consistent. I don't know whether it's just, Porsche renowned in a lot of racing series of just being good. So I think it's kind of a general thing of Porsche. And the way you see like the pit crew and, when they look inside the garage in the race and you see like the pressure when it's not going well. That's that sort of Red Bull vibe that I think it's very similar. And it's good because it means that they're performing at such a high level and the expectation is to win. And that is how you win championships. And they did last year. So obviously the pressure does do something to the drivers. But it's one of those where I think 48 points is what Nico Muller scored last year. And there's been a lot of questions of who would have been better. And I will come back to that point. But I think the reason why Porsche have chosen this is because of Nico Muller's 5 seasons in Formula E. Obviously, that sort of conditioning and building up to pressure, and then hopefully when you get to leading a race, you don't bottle it, is kind of what they're banking on. So, to me, I don't know. I don't have too many opinions on him. I think it's going to be one of those where I want to see what he's like for the first 3 races. Just let him bed in, see what he can do, see what he can qualify, and we might be surprised. But I know that a few in the Formula E zone community have said Dan Tickham should have been in that seat because he had 85 points last season. I think Tickham's too immature for that seat at the moment. I think that pressure that I talked about would not work with Tickham's driving style and attitude. Like, he's having loads of fun at Cooper Kiro, and he won the race in Jakarta. He's really bedded in with that car, and I think, the last couple of races were a bit like, oh, come on, Dan. But, end of the season, I think, he'll come back into that and he will probably outscore his season 11 this year. So, and hopefully if he has a better teammate, then they'll be able to score and maybe get into the top 7 of the constructors. So, yes, I'm very excited to just see how Muller does. And obviously when Cooper Kiro finalise their drivers, we'll be able to sort of start predicting on where we think they're going to be. If I personally could have picked the Porsche seat, I'd actually would have put De Vries in there. I know in the last video I said Van Dorn, because again, I'm thinking more that experience and who can deal with the pressure of Porsche. But I completely forgot about De Vries, and I think actually he's quite a confident driver. He did a stint in Formula 1, and I know some of you will say, well, he was rubbish, but that sport's completely different to this one. So, which brings me to the point, it's going to be down to the best pairing, isn't it? I think there's a lot of them. Obviously, Wehrlein, Muller, they could probably score consistently. Obviously, I think Citroen have a very powerful pairing. I think so did DS, actually. Jaguar, that's the one I'm going to back. But I think I'm biased because I think you should support a team in Formula E. And I'm going down the Jag route. And I did say to one of my comments last week that if he gets the ZR buyer shirt, I will stick to that. I just remembered how expensive actual official merch is. So even with Formula 1, I bought like these knockoff ones and they were great. But like, I'm going to buy some official merch. So yeah, we're just waiting on Cooper Kiro. Obviously, we've got testing. I know that I will give a shout out to the Formula E Zone boys because I think they're going to do some great videos over testing. So go check them out. I will leave a link in the description of their channel if you haven't found them or seen them before. They're going over to, I think it's Valencia, to go actually be there. So I'm counting on you boys to get the content because it's going to be really exciting. So that's it really. Another page done. This time I can scrunch it up. Last time that happened. So we're not doing that, and I can actually throw it in the bin. But yeah, that is this. I don't want to say this week's because I don't want to make this a weekly show. We're really just going to do this as it happens in Formula E. And once Cooper Kiro have mapped those seats up, we're going to bring some more content that we're going to give some predictions. I'm going to ask my brother, who also watches the sport, to join in with that, because I'm still quite a rookie and I'm enjoying it, but I think it's going to be good to bring some of the content and help others understand the sport, because it is quite complex. They don't do what Formula 1 do, where every race they go, if you're new to Formula 1. Well, they sometimes do, but not as simple as that. So, but yes, if you can, leave a comment below what you think is going to happen in Season 12 of Formula E, who you think is going to win, and who the best pairing is potentially going to win the Constructors. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys put in the comment section, and we'll start a conversation down there. But if you are new, this is the current lap.